incredible athlete. Get it up for her one more time. All right, and luckily, this wonderful athlete, Michelle Warnky, is here today. She's been on Ninja Warrior for 4 years, and she has been to Vegas every single time. She's a rock climber since first grade. She owns a gym in Worthington, Ohio. It's called Movement Lab Ohio. So if you want to go check that out and support her, go for it. Let's welcome up Michelle Warnky.
Okay, so we're just gonna ask you a few questions. So American Ninja Warrior, what was your journey getting there? Obviously, they mentioned you're a college athlete. So what were the steps in getting there and like what got you to that point?
Yeah, man, I mean, you could go ways back from rock climbing, running cross country and track for 10 years. I lived overseas for 5 years and would just keep running over there. And I actually remember doing an obstacle course with our classes over there and thinking, oh, this is just so much fun. I wish, you know, OCR races, obstacle course races weren't big at the time, but like, oh, this would be cool to do more seriously. So I just love competition. I love a challenge. Got back from living overseas, and in the span of a week, I had 3 friends like, hey, have you heard of the show, American Ninja Warrior? I was like, nah, I don't really watch TV, haven't heard of it. Next person, hey, have you heard of the show, American Ninja Warrior? No, I haven't really heard of it. You would love it. Third person, hey, have you heard of the show, American Ninja Warrior? Like, okay, I gotta go check this out. So I finally looked it up, saw it, and I was in love. I was like, this is the most amazing thing ever, I gotta try it. And then I had a few people like, well, you know, you're strong, but I don't know if you're that strong. And I was like, oh, okay, let's see. So I kind of looked some things up online, and I found that there was a gym in New Jersey, which was Movement Lab, and contacted the owner. Evidently, I found out later he thought I was like a crazy fangirl driving from Ohio to meet him. And I was like, I had no clue who you were. So I drove to his gym. Tried, I don't know, how many of you guys know the salmon ladder, what that is? It's basically a bar, and you jump it up some rungs. So that was one that, as a rock climber, I'm like, that looks awesome. So I got there, and I got in, you know, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. We've been driving for 10 hours. And we were just talking, and I'm like, can I go try that salmon ladder back there? He's like, sure, whatever. So I hop on the salmon ladder, and I get up a rung, and he starts going crazy, like, yeah, do this, do this, do this. So I made it to the top of the salmon ladder, came down, he's like, I've never seen a girl get the salmon ladder before. I was like, wait, really? What? There's a lot of strong girls out. So, and then he's like, hey, I've never had a girl get the warped wall. His gym has a very steep warped wall. So next day I worked for 2 hours on that and finally got that. And so all the guys are like, hey, you're gonna try out, right? I was like, I want to, what do I need to do? So that basically got me started, and then when I came back to Columbus, I go to a climbing gym called Vertical Adventures, and I'm friends with them since I've been going there since 2nd grade, and was talking to them, was like, hey, you know, have you ever seen this show? We could fit a warped wall right about there, we could build some stuff here. So he gave me the okay to just start building some obstacles. So I started building obstacles, and I posted some pictures online, and then got a phone call from a producer. And they said, hey, this is a producer from American Ninja Warrior. I was like, what? Are you kidding me? And he said, no, I saw you were building obstacles. Are you gonna try out? Yeah, sure. So then that's kind of how the journey all began.
That's awesome. So what's it like to actually be on the show? Like as audience, we're like, oh, go, like this is so exciting. But is it that exciting for you guys as well?
Man, how do you describe it? I mean, the first probably 6 months from the moment when I did this, the moment I did the salmon ladder that night until my first season in April probably. So November to April, I could barely sleep. I was so excited. And so all of that build up, and you, like the week before, you can't function. Like you try to focus on anything else, like, ah. And so we actually, a lot of times our region is kind of hidden. Sometimes they'll have a region like Indianapolis, it was in the middle of a city. Our region the past few years has been like in a deserted like warehouse basically. So literally all of us ninjas will go and sneak like in the trees or places you're not really supposed to go. And we'll have binoculars or a camera and zoom in, and we'll just like study and train and all this stuff. So yeah, we're super nervous. I honestly don't think about the crowd very much because for me, it's more just, there's this obstacle course, I want to beat it. So that's my main focus. And then, if you don't, it really stinks and you're really depressed for a little while. But in general, it's just an amazing experience, pluses and minuses, but really cool.
Awesome. Do you have a favorite obstacle on the course?
I was thinking about that. Man, I do really like the warped wall. It's basically a 14-foot ramped wall. And I really like the salmon ladder, which is the one where you have to jump it up. Basically any upper body thing I love. So yeah, all of those.
Cool. And how has faith played a role in your college athletics and career on American Ninja Warrior?
Yeah, so something back in college, I'd never really been injured before college. And then during college, I got injured twice, had surgery once on my legs. And I was actually pretty mad at God. How many of you have ever been mad at God? Maybe a few times. So God and I are pretty honest with each other, and I was just like, God, I'm injured. I was just really frustrated. And then once I was healthy again, or starting to get healthy again, I was just like, I could lose the ability to run at any point. So that's by God's grace every single day that I have that ability to run. So I was just thinking, okay, how can I thank God for that? And so that's when I started writing a verse on my leg. So anytime on Ninja Warrior, I'll write a verse on my leg just to thank God. And that's been amazing, because I'll have, even Akbar, who's one of the announcers, the one that says, "You go, girl." He's hilarious. He's really fun. But, he'll tell me, yeah, I always look up your verse, and I'll have kids and adults that hey, we might have missed church this morning to go watch Ninja Warrior, because you have to stay up all night. So if it's a Saturday night, you stay from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. But they're like, but we looked up your verse and did our own little church or whatever. So that's been really cool. But also another really awesome thing, I didn't bring my prayer journal, but I love to write, on the left side I'll write prayer requests, and on the right side I'll write answers to prayer. And that for me is one of the most amazing ways to really see how God answers prayer. And one of my huge prayers was, God, I would love to have other Christians that I can share this experience with that are also ninjas. So I was praying about it, starting in November all the way to April, and then went to Vegas in June. So every day in Vegas, it was God, there's 100 ninjas together. There's got to be a few other Christians. So I kept praying, I'd love to share this with some people. And the second to last day, I was like, okay, God, please, we only have a few more days left. Please let me meet some other Christians. And I had someone come up to me hey, did you have a verse on your leg in Baltimore? Yeah, you a Christian? Yeah. So we started talking. And then later on, someone, hey, did you have a prayer journal in your submission video? Yeah, you a Christian? Yeah. And then someone else was like, hey, what are you guys talking about over there? Hey, so we had this connection of 5 of us. And so, we just all kind of gathered around and started sharing stories. And one of them, if you know the show well, you might know his name, Travis Rosen. He's one of the veterans. He's one of the best guys on the show. Travis has been a Christian, but they'll never talk about it on the show. He always talks about God, but they always cut that in his interviews. But he has been writing Bible studies for ninjas since season 1 or 2. And so he's been praying for that for forever. And so it's been so amazing. My first year in Vegas, we just had this awesome prayer time together. And it's been awesome. Each year in Vegas, now we've started doing that. And this past year, we had 50 ninjas together, just praying together before we ran the course. So it's been amazing.
That's pretty cool. I think that's something we can all relate to with having team Bible studies here, and the more people that come, it's really awesome. So the next question is, you mentioned you write a verse on your leg, and you can see it in the video. What are some of those verses that really stand out to you or that really inspire you and keep you going?
Yeah. Well, definitely one of my big ones for running, which applies well for Ninja Warrior or any sport, is Philippians 4, 6, and 7, which talks about do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God, and the peace of God will transcend. And so that one I just love because, how many of you guys get nervous? I'm guessing most of you if you're doing something that you care about. So, the nerves are rolling, and before every race, I would just keep repeating that verse. Okay, do not be anxious, do not be anxious. And then another huge verse I really like, I'm gonna forget the reference right now, But basically, it's by God's grace we have this ministry, so we do not lose heart. So there's times, like for me, there's been some really, so like that night was amazing. I was on cloud nine. I like, during my interview, I'm like my eyes are crazy. But then the next night, I took a ridiculous fall. I made the silliest mistake ever. I was so excited about the salmon ladder. I'm like, yes, I'm finally here. And then I just like, my knees collapsed on the trampoline because I was so focused on the next obstacle. And so that was devastating, and I cried for a little bit. So just maybe a little bit. So that's a huge one, you know, like even when you have those times where you fall or you're devastated or all these things, it's by God's grace we have this ministry, so we don't lose heart, we keep going on.
That's really cool. It's really inspiring. So obviously American Ninja Warrior is a pretty big platform. How do you deal with, like, as college athletes, we all go through injuries, like you mentioned, and defeat. Even the football team doesn't win every week, unfortunately. But I'm sorry. I was really sad. But how do you deal with that defeat and that disappointment on a big, like, public scale too? Sorry about the football reference.
No, it's very true. That too soon aspect I get all the time. So yeah, I own a gym, Movement Lab Ohio, where we have, you know, obstacles. We do parkour, Ninja Warrior, obstacle training, and I got back from Team Ninja Warrior. We just filmed Team Ninja Warrior a few weeks ago, and they had just aired my episode of Philly, my second night in Philly, and I again made a mistake and fell. And I come into the office, and one of the kids is like, Michelle, really? You fell on the Rolling Thunder? I'm like, ouch! So, I mean, all the time, like, kids are they just get you. So, yeah, honestly, I've gone through a lot of emotions. There's definitely a lot of ups and downs, a lot of pain sometimes, but just constantly bringing it back to God and like, okay, God, you know, you're teaching me a lot. I've definitely wrestled this year when I failed the second night. I really struggled with, man, if I had completed the course, you know, what could have happened? What kind of success could I have had? And then as I was really praying about it, it's like, you know, I probably wouldn't have opened a gym. I would be focused on traveling around and all this stuff. I never would have opened a gym if that had happened. And so just asking God for perspective. And yes, there's still going to be grief and pain when, you know, you lose or fail or whatever. But okay, God, you know, your plan is better, even if it's not exactly the way I wanted it to be. So please use it.
Really cool, really cool. So the last question is, do you have like any advice for anyone in this room or just anyone in general who's maybe new to believing in Christ or new to their walk in faith and stepping out in their faith?
Yeah, that's a good question. Man. I would say one of my biggest ones would be just remaining in Jesus. And I know for myself and probably many, when you're really busy, that's one of the hardest things. In college, there's, you know, 20 things pulling at you, like, hey, let's hang out with friends, hey, let's study, hey, let's do sports, hey, let's do this. And really finding that time to just be with God. One thing that I'm really passionate about is prayer. And, you know, really getting a core group that will just pray together. It's so cool to do that, and that is really when you see, you know, God work, because I think so oftentimes we want to put effort in ourselves, and that's huge, but if we really ask God to do things, that's when it blows up. And so a big thing is just getting together with a few people and just praying together regularly.
Cool. Prayer is something really powerful. That's awesome. So I'm sure all you guys can tell Michelle's a really cool person. So we're going to open up the floor to questions for her. I'm sure some of you guys have any, so feel free to ask her any questions.
So obviously you weren't probably planning on this as a career path. Where did you see yourself going?
Funny thing, I had no idea. Because senior year of college, my dad had always been like, yeah, your major doesn't necessarily matter. It's more about getting the degree and just picking what you're passionate in. So I had exercise science was my major, and then psychology and religion were my minors. And then I always kind of wanted to go overseas, so I did that. And I thought that might be longer term than it was. Felt like God was calling me back here. and then, you know, was serving as a waitress and working at a gym as a personal trainer, and then this just plopped in my lap. So I kind of, as a kid, would make plans, and then God would always completely mess with them, so I just stopped making plans. So, yeah.
We have time for one more question, if anyone.
You said you did a lot of rock climbing, right? How come when you're like 150 feet up on like the face of some mountain, how do you not get completely terrified?
Funny story. So I don't know if you can see, I have a scar right here. So we went climbing in Yosemite. I've only gone outdoor climbing a few times, but we went with some friends. And how many of you guys have been rock climbing before? Inside or outside? So like when you're belaying someone, usually you're standing on the ground. So when you're climbing a big wall, you're actually hanging, you know, over space, belaying someone. It's like, if they fall and I'm pulled up, what if that comes out, you know? So I definitely had some fear, and then we were practicing safety and had some big rocks fall on us on the ground, and that's where I got that. And then I actually kind of freaked out a few times. So I actually have not been on a big wall since then, but I would like to try again and hopefully, you know, conquer that fear.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Michelle. Thanks so much.